Lesson 30. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. The idea for today is the springboard for vision. From this idea will the world open up before you, and you will look upon it and see in it what you have never seen before. Nor will what you saw before be even faintly visible to you. Today we are trying to use a new kind of projection. We are not attempting to get rid of what we do not like by seeing it outside. Instead, we are trying to see in the world what is in our minds and what we want to recognize is there. Thus, we are trying to join with what we see rather than keeping it apart from us. That is the fundamental difference between vision and the way you see. Today's idea should be applied as often as possible throughout the day. Whenever you have a moment or so, repeat it to yourself slowly, looking about you and trying to realize that the idea applies to everything you do see now or could see now if it were within the range of your sight. Real vision is not limited to concepts such as near and far. To help you begin to get used to this idea, try to think of things beyond your present range as well as those you can actually see as you apply today's idea. Real vision is not only unlimited by space and distance, but it does not depend on the body's eyes at all. The mind is its only source. To aid in helping you to become more accustomed to this idea as well, devote several practice periods to applying today's idea with your eyes closed, using whatever subjects come to mind and looking within rather than without. Today's idea applies equally to both. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. We join with God's mind for one universal purpose, extending love, love upon love, moment after moment, infinitely and eternally. The purpose of the universe is creation, and creation is the expansion, the expression of love. If only love is real, if only God being all-encompassing love and what He creates is real, it can only be more and more love because that's all there ultimately is. So our purpose, our will and God's will, our mind joined with God's mind, our function and our purpose in the world and in heaven above is to create, and that means to extend, express, give love. We've talked about before that seeing in the Course is perceiving, how we're perceiving something, how we're seeing it, and that most of the time we are seeing with our body's eyes, we are seeing with the physical eyes, we are not seeing with our spiritual senses, we're not seeing with spiritual sight or vision, as the Course says. Our thoughts and our perceptions lead to our experience and lead to the world we experience. All thinking produces form at some level, some kind of effect. So we want to think like God thinks with love, and that will lead us to see as God sees with love. God is in your mind because you are in His. You cannot disconnect from the mind of God. You can be distracted here in the world, and you can forget, not be joined up with that love, with the voice for God within you, but you can never actually be disconnected. You can just kind of be out of sync. God created you. You are an idea in His mind, the Course says. An idea can never leave its source, the Course says, because the creative power that we have, all thought produces form at some level. Why can an idea never leave its source? Because you have created it, you have thought it, you have caused it. If it is a thought of love, which is what you are, then it is eternal. God can't create something that's not loving and unreal. If it's not loving, it's unreal. Only love is real. You are a loving thought in the mind of God. And that means your connection with Him is unbreakable, cannot be altered, cannot be abolished, changed in any way. It is an eternal bond because you are love, created from ultimate love. So God is in your mind as close to you as your next thought, your next breath, your next heartbeat, right there. God's perspective, the loving perspective, is always available to us. But like I said before, in this world, we get distracted from that. And the ego is very intentional about distracting you and helping you to forget that you have access to that. It's like a frequency, our innate natural identity and connection with God. It's like a frequency that's always there. We're just not attuned to it at all times, but it's still there. Just because we're not lined up with it in the moment doesn't mean that that radio station isn't playing, right? His perspective, the miracles, the wisdom, the solutions, the love is always there. God is in everything I see because God is in my mind. As miracle workers, our purpose is to extend love, to rejoin with the mind of God, to receive the love that is already there, to line up with it, to tune into that frequency, and then to extend that love into the world. We have to pause and access that remembrance of who we are, that God is there in our mind, and reconnect. And that is what the Course calls the holy instant. That holy instant is a moment to pause, realign, to access God, to access wisdom, access love, to receive it, and then to extend it out in the world. It is a moment of accessing the holiness and the divinity that is already there within us. We just haven't been lined up with it. Then, because we are changing the way we see, we're changing the way we think, which is cause and effect, which is the cause. It's the creative power that we have. The effect, our experience, will then change in some way. God can be in everything that we see because God is in our minds. We can't not be joined with Him. Like I said, we can't be disconnected. But in this world, we can be distracted and forget that connection and forget our creative power and forget our ability to choose how we're seeing things and what we're thinking about what we're seeing, to have control over our experience, to take responsibility for our experience by choosing to see things differently, choosing to think differently, to think with God, to think with love. We then bring the holiness to all things when we realign with the mind of God. We, as miracle workers, bring God, bring love into the world. Therefore, it transforms into a world that is more meaningful, more beautiful, more holy, more loving, more miraculous. It works better. Everyone's happier. There's less suffering and chaos and fear. That is our role. That is creating, co-creating with God, a beautiful, happier dream world that we're in. Keep going with this work. You're doing a great job. We are rounding out tomorrow, month 1 of our year-long workbook study. And so we're 1/12 of the way through, almost. Yay! That's a big, 30 days is a big marker in helping to rewire your neural pathways and the way that you think. So if you've made it this far, this is excellent. Keep going. Tune in, access the love that's within you, receive it, claim it, and then extend it to everything you see. Think about how your life experience might have changed over the past 30 days from doing these lessons. And imagine what it will be in the next 30. I'll see you tomorrow.